welcome Karen. Carolyn, are you available?
Oh, I just forgot to click
go.
my talk button. I just wanted to say that that we are the library development is part that puts on First Tuesdays is part of the Secretary of State, and we work for Washington State Library. And those of us today in the two facilitators, my name is Carolyn Peterson, and my co-facilitator Jennifer Fenton is also here today with us. And our technical producers, Joe is not up on this call, but Jeremy is. So once again, if you need any assistance, please copy down that email or that phone number. Although actually that phone number isn't good, right, because you're not at your desk, Jeremy. So just do the email. And then again, once again, in addition to working for the Secretary of State, we also are funded by the Institute of Museum and Library Services. And so we wanted to acknowledge the fact that they are ones that fund library development. And then today, this is one more last housekeeping. The Office of Financial Management asks us to collect this information for any programs that we do. So at this point in time, in chat, please type your name and your library. So that Bryn has something. Jeremy, did you see that? Bryn was getting audio, then it disappeared.
Yeah,
what we'll hope is that it's a buffer. Sometimes what we find is that as things go through, they come back. I mean, it's like it's gone for 5, 6 seconds and boom, it's gone. So anyway, Jeremy is doing that. Thank you. We appreciate the folks who are typing things in, and if you haven't, please do so. Okay, well, we can see folks are typing away. We appreciate that. Thank you very much. Okay, well, at this, Bryn still has no audio. Okay, well, Jeremy is probably going to take her offline, and we will get going. So great, Camas Public Library. Hi, I'm coming down there this Thursday. I'll look forward to meeting you in person, Karen. But anyway, with us today, we have 3 presenters from the Law Library. Shani, Cate, Jennifer Laine, and Wendy Coddington comprise the reference staff at the Washington State Law Library. Between the 3 of them, they have over 35 years of experience working at the Law Library. We will hear more about the services they provide during the presentation. So, with no further ado, I would like to turn this over to our 3 presenters, and what I'm going to do is I will copy down your questions as they appear in chat. Don't hesitate to do them, and then I will read them back to our presenters at the end of the presentation. So, ladies, the mics are all yours.
All right. Can everybody hear me? All right, so hello and welcome. We're happy to be here today, and we're presenting to you our Getting to Know the State Law Library presentation. As Carolyn has already mentioned, I'm Shani, and other presenters here today are Jennifer. We may refer to her as Jen, and Wendy. Together we make up the reference staff of the Washington State Law Library. Our goal for today is for you to take away some information about the State Law Library services, our materials, and we're going to take you through a tour of our brand new website, which we are really proud of. So we hope you get some information from that. Most importantly, we want you to understand how we can help you when you have patrons who have legal questions. The way we are going to be presenting today is that I am going to go over our services and our legislative history materials. Jen is going to be speaking to you about interlibrary loan and our print materials, and Wendy is going to talk about the databases we have at our library and go do that website tour for you. As Jeremy said, we definitely would love to have your questions, but if you could hold them till the end of the presentation, that would be great. So first of all, I'd like to start out with a poll. I was wondering if any of you have ever been to our library or maybe even used us for assistance by calling us or interlibrary loaning, doing an interlibrary loan with us.
Just a reminder for polling, you can use the polling button right here in the participants panel.
Well, it looks like there's a couple yeses. Okay. All right. Great. Well, it looks like a couple of you have either been in our library or used us for some assistance, and that's great. And we hope that with this presentation today, you will all feel comfortable calling us. We are very, very friendly people, and we love to get reference questions. So you can always feel free to call us when you need help. So I just wanted to go over quickly, in case you didn't know, where we are located. You can see here on this slide that we are located on the beautiful Capitol campus in Olympia. We are housed in the same building, the Temple of Justice, with the Supreme Court. In fact, our main reading room is right across the foyer from the courtroom, and it's a very beautiful room, as you can see here. We have our address down here. I am going to be putting in a URL in the chat box, and it will give you some directions to our library, just in case you decide you want to visit. Let's see here. I have to see if I can get this to work. That's right. It does work when you do the right click, though. Oh, maybe not. Maybe if I do Control V there. There we go. All right, there it is. So that's just parking is actually not plentiful at our library, so that's some good information to have if you do visit. All right, next slide. So who do we serve? Our kind of main patrons that we serve, our primary patrons, would be the State Supreme Court as well as the Court of Appeals. We get a lot of law clerks asking us questions. We also serve the local courts and associated local agencies with those courts. And we also work with the county law libraries to serve their local courts and their patrons as well. And I'm sorry, I meant to do my little pointer. Can you see that? All right, so we also serve state agencies, both executive and the legislative branch. We also serve the Washington State Bar, members of the Washington State Bar. And then lastly, but not least, we serve the public. And in fact, we have a lot of members of the public who call us or come in or use some of our other services that we'll be talking about. And our hours at the library are 8 to 5, Monday through Friday, for people to come in or call us with questions. We are not open on the weekend. All right. So, some of the services that we provide. Of course, we provide reference service. We do that in person. We will also answer questions by phone. We will answer questions through email, and we also have our question point Ask a Librarian service. You can kind of see here on the side, this is actually a copy of a box off of our website, and it has sort of all the different means that you can get help from us. So it's really easy to find that information. We will also provide contact information at the end of our presentation, so you'll have that. The level of reference service that we provide depends on the patron type. we always give priority to our court patrons because that is our primary mission, but we actually end up giving more of our time to the public, obviously because of the complexity of the law and because when we are dealing with public patrons, they just don't have the experience with legal materials. So we will provide pretty extensive help to our public patrons. We do have document delivery service. Requests can be made by phone as well as email and at our document delivery or document request form link, which you can see here, and that's on our website. When we make the delivery, that would be by email. We can scan materials and send a PDF, and we also can download documents from some of our subscription databases. And we will also mail photocopies, and we still fax. As far as our document delivery service, we do charge the general public for document delivery. We also charge for-profit libraries and corporations as well as State Bar Association members. We do not charge for emailing materials that we can download from our subscription databases. So that's a great thing for you to take away from this, is that things like Westlaw documents, cases from Westlaw, we can email those materials to you at no charge. We do have some limitations on our document delivery services. We request that people don't make more than 5 requests per day. And we have some page limits as well on those services. And of course, our policies are all available at our website. I should mention there are some exceptions to our policies. Some people request appellate briefs, which are the arguments that attorneys submit to the court before an appellate case. And those are really, really long, so we can't photocopy some of those types of materials, but we can send the books. The last service here on this slide is our circulation services. That's pretty simple. We do circulate to members of the Washington State Bar and government employees. We do not circulate to the general public, but that's where Interlibrary Loan often comes in when people are going to their public libraries to get materials from us. We will mail materials through UPS or FedEx, and of course we circulate in person. Now I'm going to hand it over to Jen, and she's going to talk a little more extensively about Interlibrary Loan.
Thanks, Shani. So for Interlibrary Loan, like Shani said, because we restrict who can borrow directly from our library, we often refer patrons to their public library to request an ILL. And the same with someone who is a student or even a faculty member at a academic library as well. We would suggest that they contact their library to request an ILL. So if we spoke to your patron prior to them coming to you, they should know that they need to ask about your ILL policies and procedures and to have an understanding of what you require from them for ILL. We, in terms of lending, we usually fill interlibrary loan requests within one business day, and often we can fill copy requests the same day that we receive them. One thing to note is that many academic law libraries do not loan material in binders, but we do. So if you are looking for something that is in a binder, don't hesitate to put us first on your lender string on OCLC, or to just simply contact us to request it, because chances are we can still send it to you. We don't charge for ILL, and the library is an Elvis member. Elvis was not just someone with large sideburns. Elvis, it stands for Library is Very Interested in Sharing, and that is a group on OCLC. And our OCLC policy directory has our library circulation and lending policies, and our symbol is Z@5. And if your library is not on OCLC, that's okay. We will accept ILL requests over the phone and through email, so don't hesitate to contact us. And then one thing else is that if you don't know how to cite the requested item, or you are given a citation but you don't know the full title in order to find the right OCLC record, just contact us. Give us a call and we'll help you figure it out. We have a lot of citation resources right at our fingertips and are really good at deciphering those strange or unusual citations. And so now I'm going to hand it back over to Shani, and she's going to discuss our library's on-site services.
Thanks, Jen. All right. Okay. I'm sorry. Okay. Our on-site services. So we have, and we've had for a while now, a computer center in the downstairs portion of our library. Something that I didn't mention is that there are 2 levels to our library with different types of materials on each level. And in fact, there's sort of a 3rd mezzanine level. We have 7 computers in our downstairs computer center, and we have 1 computer in the upstairs portion of our library that is available. They're all available for public use. On those terminals, we have internet and database access, and Wendy's going to be talking about our databases in a minute. We do have some printing for a fee, but you can also bring a flash drive into the computer center, and you can download onto a flash drive, which a lot of our patrons find helpful in when they're using Gale Legal Forms database, which is something people might be using when they're preparing for their own court cases. We do have a microfiche reader and printer, and there is printing available on that machine. We have photocopiers on the 2 different levels of our library. Patrons make copies at the photocopier, and then they pay us at the circulation desk. Something that people have been enjoying for a few years at our library is free Wi-Fi, which is available. And then lastly, and very importantly, we love to give tours to people. We ask if someone wants a tour, either an individual or a group, that they call in advance to schedule a tour. What we ask is to have some information about the group so that we know what their research interests are, and then we can tailor the tour to what their needs are. Some examples of tour groups that have come in that have found the tours useful would be high school youth government groups, community college paralegal program groups, community groups, and civics groups. But it's not limited to that. We will give a tour to anyone who wants one. Not only is the collection of interest to people, but we work in a historical building in historical rooms that are quite beautiful with furnishings, and it's just people come into our library and they look up in awe because it is a beautiful environment. I'm going to hand it over to Jen now, and she's going to be talking about some of our print resources.
Okay, so our library's collection is quite extensive, over 300,000 volumes. And so I'm going to just highlight a few areas of the collection. First of all, case law comes in the form of reports of court opinions, which have been bound into volumes. And our collection includes all opinions that are published from the State Court of Appeals and the State Supreme Court. In addition, our library has court opinions from other states that are in bound volumes, but we don't have trial-level case documents. And examples of trial-level case documents would be parenting plans or a judgment. Those documents are only available by contacting the court that heard the case. In addition, we have federal, U.S. District Court, U.S. Court of Appeals, U.S. Supreme Court opinions, and then we also have a number of topical reporters, such as bankruptcy, Veterans Affairs, taxes, just to name a few. We have codes and legislative acts, such as Revised Code of Washington, Washington Administrative Code, session laws, and we have a number of resources used to research the meaning and the history of these as well. And then also we have Washington court rules, both state and local. And we have, again, a number of materials that are used to research the history and the meaning of the court rules. And for all these materials, our collection often dates back to statehood or the territorial times. So we have quite a historical collection to really give you a broad perspective as you can trace how the law has changed over the last 150 years, for example. We also have a large collection of secondary sources, including legal encyclopedias, Washington practice materials for attorneys, such as Washington Practice Series that you see here, and desk books that are published by the State Bar. And we essentially have legal treatises on most areas of the law. We also have some form books. However, we don't provide form packets for do-it-yourselfers. We cannot select individual forms for patrons to use, but what we can do is show them the form books or show them books that have sample forms with instructions, and then they choose which forms they need for themselves. And then lastly, we have appellate briefs. Like Shani said, briefs are the attorney's written arguments, which are then filed with the court. We carry all briefs filed with State Court of Appeals and Supreme Court that relate to a published opinion by those courts. And to my knowledge, we are the only library with briefs, this collection of briefs, in print. Several other academic libraries do have them on microfiche, but our print collection is quite extensive, and again, it dates back all the way back to statehood. And now more print resources. The foundation of today's state law library, which we call the Territorial Collection, is the collection that made up the law department of the original Territorial Library. It was put together by Territorial Governor Isaac Stevens in 1854. And many of these books are on display in the main reading room, and we have a picture right here. And we often get questions, are these still used? And yes, they are still used. People often find a citation to one of the opinions that's published in these books, and then they are unable to find the court opinion in a database, and so we are one of the few places to get that court opinion. We have a selective, or we are a selective depository for federal government documents, and our titles tend to be those of interest to the legal community, of course. But our government document records in our catalog are not detailed, so it is really best to call and ask about individual items in this collection. We also have a small collection of training materials that are used for court interpreters, including Spanish, Mandarin, Korean, Vietnamese, and American Sign Language materials. And some of these are AV materials. They're not just books, but we are willing to lend them through ILL. So if you are in need of something that's on CD and it looks like we have it, again, don't hesitate to ask us for it. Chances are we can send it to you in a fairly short time period. We also have a number of research guides that are to help patrons with basic legal research, and currently we have one topical guide on Native American law. These are available in print for patrons to pick up in the library, of course, but they're also on our website. And then we have a large collection of legislative history materials that are used to trace, again, the history of the law. And we'll go into more detail regarding these materials a little bit later in the presentation. So now Wendy is going to give you an overview of our library's databases and our website.
Let me get back to that slide. Okay, currently these are the databases that we subscribe to. First of all, let's see here. Okay, that's not going to work. I'm just trying to get my pointer out there, and that's not working. But the first one here you see is Westlaw. We currently subscribe to the classic version of Westlaw. Here, patrons can. Here we go. We'll try that. So, patrons tend to use Westlaw to find cases, statutes, annotated codes, and court rules. They can download information from legal encyclopedias like Corpus Juris Secundum, and more locally, the Washington Practice Series. We have access to that as well through Westlaw. Also law reviews and some legal treatises. Next is Shepard's. We subscribe to the Shepard's feature of LexisNexis. It's the only part of Lexis that we do have access to currently. This is used by patrons to determine if the case that they want to use is still good law. Hein Online is the database that is really our primary resource for law reviews. Other libraries in this database include the American Indian Law Collection, as well as collections consisting of historical and current government documents, such as the like the Federal Register, the U.S. Code, Code of Federal Regulations. We have historical state codes and legislative acts in another collection, federal legislative histories, and some case law. So this database is very helpful. It includes PDF images so that when pages are downloaded, they look just like the books in the pages in the book or the journal that people are trying to access. Down here, Lois Law Connect is it provides access to the Washington subject-specific text, such as the topical desk books and other continuing legal education materials that are published by the Washington State Bar Association. So an example of this would be the Washington Family Law Desk Book or the Washington Real Property Desk Book, materials that are quite heavily used by patrons that come into the library. The CCH Labor and Employment Law Library contains resources helpful to people researching quite a wide range of issues regarding labor and employment law. Patrons with questions about, say, family medical leave, the Americans with Disabilities Act, and the Affordable Care Act may find this database helpful. And finally, Gale Legal Forms. This is great for patrons who are representing themselves in court. It has forms on, again, a wide range of subjects, including bankruptcy, dissolution, incorporation, landlord-tenant, name change, power of attorney, wills, and many, many more subjects. Forms can be filled out online and then printed or saved on a flash drive. However, we cannot help the patrons choose the correct form to fill out, as this would be considered giving legal advice. This is one database that I've noticed that some public libraries have. So I was wondering if anyone here who's from a public library has this at their library. Can we just take a quick poll and give me a yes or no? No. Okay, well, maybe not. I know that I have been able to refer some people who've called in to their public libraries who did have access to this database. So it doesn't look like anyone here today has that one. Okay, I'm going to... Yeah, thank you, Shani. I do want to point out that materials that we have access to from any of these databases, we can download and email material from them, and there's no charge for that. So that's just a service that we're glad to be able to provide. And again, the description of all these databases is on our website if you want to refer to that at a later date. So I'm going to take a moment now and go away from this slide and bring up our website and just show you some key features of it. Okay, so this is the home page of our website. As you can see, it's kind of broken up into 3 main parts here. You can always search our catalog. Let me pull up my pointer again here. Oh, can't use that on this feature. That's right. So on the box on the left under Find, you can search our catalog, and under that you can also find any news announcements that we might have. For example, currently we're advertising some free upcoming classes that are going to be taking place on site. For WSBA members, we have a class on CaseMaker. I think that it's a service that they have access to through their WSBA membership. So we're providing some training on that. We're also providing some training on the basics of Westlaw Classic, the version of Westlaw that we do subscribe to. And that is open to everyone. The public is welcome to attend that training. We do ask for an RSVP, and you can see the time and dates on that in our What's New box. Let's see. So also on our homepage under Ask, you can find the various ways of that you can contact us and ask a question. We've already briefly touched on this. Our Ask a Librarian service. There's our phone number. Again, you can chat with us live. And then you can click on the email and just send us an email directly from that. Below that, you can also open up the link for our document request form from here. And then over on the far right are just some quick links, some basic direct links to legal resources for Washington, including the Revised Code of Washington, Washington Administrative Code, and some local city and county codes as well. That's always something we've found helpful for our public patrons. Down below, you can also take a library tour or a photo tour of the library. So if you want to see what we look like, but you can't make it in, then you can always click on that. So on the About tab up here, I'm going to just go quickly through each tab and just kind of tell you what you can find there. On the About tab, you can where are they? You can find all of our policies here. You can see the links on the far right-hand side and link directly to our policies. You can also see a staff directory there. And again, all of our contact information is available there as well under Quick Links. On the Collections tab, you'll find highlights of both our print and non-print collections, including the audio-visual collection that we've mentioned. That includes a lot of our court interpreter materials. You can find description of our comprehensive collection of Supreme Court and Court of Appeals briefs, and a list of the databases that we subscribe to. So if you can click to those directly from the links on the right again. So for the databases, you can find a description here. The Services tab here outlines the services that Shani and Jen have both been discussing. The Research tab provides links to free legal resources on the internet broken down by jurisdiction, which you can go to directly from the links on the far right, either state, local, tribal, federal level, and other jurisdictions. So you can go to international and other state materials as well. I'd like to point out one link on here, the Need More Help page, in that first paragraph under legal research. So if you click on that, you'll find additional resources, including links to directories and organizations that may help put someone in touch with legal assistance. You can, if you go down to contact an attorney, you'll find quite a list of different organizations and programs that can help people if they have a legal problem. So back up to the top, we have a tab for newsletters where you'll find PDFs of our quarterly e-newsletter, The Starting Place. And you can also sign up here to get on our e-newsletter listserv and get notified when we publish a new one. Again, here's Ask a Librarian. You can always access that. Besides being pretty prominent on our homepage, it's on our tab bar here, and you can always click on Ask a Librarian to submit a question or find other ways of contacting us if you do have a question. You can link directly to our live chat from here, and you can see the hours from it's covered from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. So also available on each page as you tab from page to page. I don't know if you've noticed this as we've gone through it, but you can always find the feature to search our catalog up on top. And then you can go back to the home page simply by clicking on the header there for Washington State Law Library. Again, and I think I mentioned it before, but you can always find all of our contact information on the About page, and then down here under Quick Links is all of our contact information, different ways that you can get a hold of us. So that's just a brief overview of what you can find on our website. I'm going to hand it back to Shani now, and she'll go into a little more detail on the legislative history materials that we have.
Thanks, Wendy. Let me get to the correct slide now. All right. So I know we're starting to sort of run out of time, and we want to make sure that we have plenty of time for questions. So I'm not going to go through this in a lot of detail, but just to let you know, I am a legislative history nerd, and I am very willing to help anyone who has questions about legislative history. You can give me a call. I love it. I could go on all day about it, but I will save you that pain because I'm sure you're not as much of a fan as I am. But sometimes, and I was going to poll you all to ask you if you have patrons who need, ask legislative history questions. You can type in and let us know if you want while I'm talking. But sometimes we have patrons who come in who want to know what the intent of a statute is, or possibly just an amendment to a statute. And that's where our legislative history materials come in. And this is why we feel this is a really important part of this presentation, because we're one of the only places you can kind of get a lot of these materials in one place. It's important to note that if you are looking for an historical statute of any type, whether it's current, old, or really old from the territorial times, we have all those statutes. So I'm just going to start with the Revised Code of Washington. We have the Revised Code of Washington that you're probably familiar with. They've been printing the Revised Code of Washington, or the RCW, the same way since 1974. We have all of those, but we also have the pre-1974 RCWs. They are sort of a different format. They were put out by Loose Leaf, and they're hard to search, but we are always here to help you if you need those older statutes. We have precursors to the RCW. Those codes have all sorts of different names, and they overlap in years, and they're really weird. But we have the Code of 1881, which is a territorial code. We have, you may have heard of these or not, Hill's Code, Pierce's Code, Remington's Revised Statutes, which is actually, if you've ever done legislative history research, you may have seen RRS citations in the legislative history notes to an RCW. So you can You can call us for any of those. We have what's called the Digest and History of Bills. This is a material that's good for researching legislation that was actually not passed. It has information, some background information and summaries on all bills that were introduced in a given legislative session. This is the only finding aid and summary of bills that did not pass the legislature. We also have bill books. These go back to 1913. They contain the original as well as subsequent drafts of House and Senate bills. Bill changes are actually considered part of the legislative history. So looking at bill books and seeing the different iterations of a bill can be useful when you're doing legislative history research. Laws of Washington, you may be more familiar with the Laws of Washington. These are books of the legislative acts that were passed in any given session. These are what are incorporated into the RCW. You can actually see here on this slide these legislative history notes that you very likely have seen at the end of an RCW section. These are the session laws, and we do have these in different formats, print as well as some digital formats. We have the final legislative reports, and what these are basically sort of a background and summary of bills that were passed in a legislative session. They only go back to 1975, but they're based on the final bill report. Finally, we have the House and Senate journals. We have all of these back to Washington Territory. They are the day-to-day happenings of the House and Senate. You can use them to precisely trace a bill through both houses of the legislature. There is note of floor debates. They don't put the text in there, but it can be a starting place for more research. Occasionally, you will see something called a colloquy in the journals, and it will say point of inquiry, and this is also something that can help you understand the intent of a bill. You can also find successful and failed floor amendments in the journals. And I think it's just important to note that we do not have all legislative history materials. We're a really good starting place, but we oftentimes end up referring people to the state archives or the House and Senate journal clerks to do more research. But they can find sort of the starting building blocks of their research at our library. Many of you may know that there are legislative materials dating back to the 1980s on the legislature's website. Unfortunately, that website is not easily searchable, but we spend quite a bit of time searching on that website. So please, please call us if you are ever researching the legislative website and just can't figure it out, because sometimes we know it is really hard to figure it out. And then finally, there is quickly a website that you can see what all legislative materials there are. I'm trying to get that in here. Just so that you have this, you can see all of their legislative documents that are available at the legislature's website, and we are always willing to help you peruse that website if you need help. Jen is going to conclude the presentation with the most important takeaway of all, which is how can we help?
Thanks, Shani. And how do I get back out of the web tour? Okay, never mind. So, and I just want to get to the right slide here. So we know that the amount and the type of legal research material available in public and many academic libraries is really limited. So we are here to help you help your patrons. Anytime you don't know where to start with a legal question or you've hit a real roadblock in your research, just give us a call. We can provide some basic assistance over the phone. Going back to legislative history as an example, if your patron is using the RCW and simply wants to know the meaning of these notes at the end of an RCW section, or they want to know when the section was enacted or it was amended, we can help you interpret these notes. Taking this example a step further, maybe your patron needs to see the text of each of these changes, or they just simply want to know what the section looked like in its original form in 1992. We can help you there with an interlibrary loan, where we can just simply send the section to you. If you're unsure if your patron is best served by an ILL or by contacting us themselves, don't hesitate to give us a call to figure that out. We can often recommend loaning an entire work or sending several sections out of a book rather than just copying an individual section if the patron is unfamiliar with legal research. And then that either sending the book or giving several sections will give more context to the issue that they're researching, and will give them a much better sense of where that one piece fits in. Also, if the question is just simply too complex to take care of through a phone consultation or through ILL, just refer them to us. You know, there are several methods you could do so. We use Question Point for Ask a Librarian and for chat. So you could send your Question Point questions to us. And also you can send the patron to the website where they can send us their email question themselves, or they can chat with us, and we showed you that earlier on our website. And one thing to keep in mind is that if they have a question that specifically pertains to our library, such as our hours or whether we have a particular book, and they are chatting with us, we do only cover chat 3 hours per day, 10 till 1. We share chat service with the Public Law Library of King County, and they pick up chat 1 to 4. And again, that's Monday through Friday. And of course, your patron is welcome to give us a call or visit us. Often a conversation will really help us to hone in on which of our resources will best meet their needs. I'm sure you've all had conversations with a patron where they simply start to tell you their story, and then they kind of look at you as if you're going to magically know what it is they need to solve their problem or to help them, and without giving you any real direction about what it is they want in the end. We especially see this with patrons who are doing legal research. They'll just tell us about their court case, and then they want us to tell them how to fix the problem. And what they think they need is often not what they actually need. What they need is something else. And so we can help direct them to which resources are going to best fit their needs. We can identify whether they should be looking at just the law, the court rules, or more of those legal treatises and practice materials. We talked about desk books, Washington practice, and really give them, that will give them more of an explanation and then cite back to the court cases and the laws. So absolutely, they are welcome to talk to us and really explain their situation, and we'll do what we can to help them. So that pretty much concludes our presentation. I think Wendy is going to field, or Carolyn are going to field your questions, and we will see what we can do to answer them.
I believe, oh, I'm sorry, Carolyn. I was going to say I had one question I was going to post up here, or did you already get the one from Carlos?
Yes. It is,
go right ahead.
Do you have the codes for the 50 states and localities? So in other words, do you have the law codes for 50 states? And then my sense is that then he says, and do you have the codes for the localities for Washington State?
So if you're talking, can everyone hear me now? Okay. If you're talking about like the local municipal and county codes, we do have many of those in print. However, we have taken some out of our collection just due to space requirements and keeping up the print ones if they are available online. If they're available, you know, electronically, you may not find it in print in our collection. as far as the other 50 states, again, we, like everyone else, have gone through some pretty severe budget cuts, and that's one area of our collection that did take a pretty good hit. A lot of the other state case law and codes we have access to through databases like Westlaw. We have the other states' session laws are accessible through another of our databases in Hein Online. So again, that's it is an area of our collection that you will probably not find it in print. But again, we have access to it through another format. Does that answer your question?
It looks like Carlos is chatting away, typing. And while he's doing that, is there anyone else who either has something on their, would like to type something in chat, or would just like to click on your talk button and ask a question that way? I really appreciate the thoroughness of this presentation. I really feel now that I have a better handle on what questions I can forward to you or ask to you, or I didn't realize that the law library was so willing to accept and work with the public, and I thought that was great. So that's good. Okay, let's see here.
We love the public.
Great, great. All right. Well, okay, Carlos has another one. He said, what was available pre-RCW?
All right, so I can tell you in more detail what we have pre-RCW, and it's actually the whole pre-RCW and RCW issue is very confusing, and actually I get confused by it, and I actually have a law review article that explains how we went from the Remington Revised Statutes to the RCW, and I think even earlier than that. But sometimes what you'll find when you're doing older research is you will see these weird citations, and they may be to a Pierce's code or a Remington's and Ballinger's code or Hill's code. These were all people that were reporters or code revisers, and they sometimes did their own code revisions. But you can still see citations to these statutes today in court cases if they're citing to an old statute. Some of our current statutes date back from those statutes, especially Remington Revised Statutes, that was the set of statutes that we used right before the RCW. So I think the takeaway from our presentation is if you need an old statute, we will have it. There's really no question. There may be a couple of volumes, or because we had loose leaf pages that we had to save, sometimes those could be missing, but there would never be a reason for you not to call us if you need an old statute, because we should have it. And we do have a research guide on our website that does talk about the RCW and the does it have some information on the precursors, Wendy? Okay, there's a link to the article that I use as my reference, apparently, on that guide, which I had forgotten about. But it is there. So you can do your own research and then call me if you want, or you can just call us.
Great. Well, I see folks are rushing to get to their desk appointment at 10, and they've been thanking us for doing it. And unless any other last questions before we thank our presenters? Okay, I'm not seeing anybody type or doing anything, so I'd say again, thank you for. Jackson is typing. We'll see what she says, but she says thank you, and we do as well. And that was a very thorough presentation, and it will be very good for folks to archive on our website later at their convenience to find out the services that you offer. Again, thank you very much, and we appreciate you coming.
Thank you, everyone. Fantastic.